It's Ed, and today is another episode of Autism and Me on a somewhat more grown-up topic, because we're going to be talking about sex and gender, and we're joined today by Jess the cat. Jess ain't going to be doing much talking though, because she's a cat. And cats don't really have to worry about gender. Now you might think, well, isn't that because they got spayed and neutered? Kind of, but no. For you see, gender is not what's between your legs, not just. In fact, not even biological sex is what's between your legs. And don't worry, I will be able to show you the difference between sex and gender, with not only facts and logic, but a lumberjack. And first, well, let's just nail down what biological sex is. Have a little cup of tea. Oh, and GMB didn't sponsor this video, but this was the mug I happened to pick out. So, yeah, they have a visitor's pack when I visited them before. So, anyway. So think of it this way when it comes to biological sex. It's a bit complicated. Top end, or think of it as two twin peaks. One is a very male person, probably even so male that they only exist in hypothetical. You know, big muscly guy with the massive purple-headed yogurt slinger. I don't know how to say it in better English. Massive beard. All head gone bald due to massive testosterone. Then on the other peak, we have the most womanly woman well, not the most womanly woman, the most female-y female who ever did female. You know, that, big each way, all the estrogen flowing around. Then in the middle, we have everyone in between. And intersex people, who will have both or sometimes neither of these. And these are biological markers. And this is a whole characteristic of what they call primary sexual characteristics, secondary sexual characteristics. But I won't bore you with all that because, you know, we covered it in biology class back at GCSE. Or at least we did when I was at school. I don't know what the curriculum's like anymore. But, you know, there's all these different things. And I'm not a biologist, so I think it's probably decent to explain basically. So you have things like the lower voice. I always lower now I do a lower voice on camera because it's more palatable for people. Whereas if I talk in a much more normal voice, people don't really resonate with that so well. So, back to the more presenter voice. I was specially trained to do that because people would think I sound like a gay Australian. Direct quote from Careers of Oz, who'd be thinking, who say it's that in interviews people would just think that you were born a woman and not be thinking about what you're saying. Which is kind of paradoxical. So, we got biological sex out of the way. Whole load of characteristics. Voice, hair, where it grows, where it doesn't grow. These are biological markers and hormone levels, but visceral biological markers. Funnily enough, they don't always even intersect. So hence why someone with low testosterone could have a really high sperm count. Fun fact, that was me. You know, really testosterone so low that they thought I might have a medical problem. I didn't. But, you know, 15 parts per mil is considered healthy, is the healthy bar, and I've got 67 parts per mil. No worries. But then nobody wanted it because, well, not just because of autism, but autism plus other medical history. Funny, really. I always said, I remember sometimes people ask me, do you have a useless talent? But no worries. Another cup of tea. So you might be thinking, yeah, Ed, but we've got this, the biological sex. Now what about the gender? And I can prove to you it's different. Because gender is more the social thing, both in terms of a personal identity and how one relates to the world and a sort of expression. And don't worry, I'm not about to sing a song for you. Firstly, because I don't want to get Monty Python suing me for an unlicensed use of the Lumberjack song. Second, I am pretty sure my Canadian viewers would not forgive me the accent with the Canadian accent. And third, I like you guys too much to have to bother you about my singing. Too much. Anyway. More importantly, if you remember the Lumberjack song by Monty Python, I mean, it's a classic. But if you think about it, it would not have any meaning at all if gender and biological sex, which I'm saying biological sex here to avoid confusion with the activity that quite a lot of people enjoy, but not everyone, and that's fine. But anyway, so gender is different. Now, if you think about it, if gender and biological sex were the same thing, where would be the surprise and the humour of a lumberjack who wears women's clothes? There'd be none. His biology would be the same. I mean, we don't know his testosterone levels, but, you know, this lumberjack would have all the same biology, all the same biological markers, but he'd just be wearing high heels, suspenders and a bra, putting on women's clothing, hanging around in bars, all the stuff that Monty Python already sung about. So no. Yes. No, yes, I like my cup of tea. And so, I just have to say, that is the point. So we got our baseline down of what biological sex is, what biological gender is. Now what's that mean to me as an autistic person? Well, I mean, as I mentioned in my Politics of Writing video, I'm a transgender woman. As I say, you know, I am a woman who was assigned male at birth because doctor look between my legs. Why people do that, I do not know. And told my mama and my papa, so my ma and dad. Don't know why I say papa. We never say papa at home. Maybe I'm trying to carry it to the American, to the other markets. Anyway, more to the point. And they say, there's a boy. I don't know why. Why people do that? Maybe they won't do it so often. Funnily enough, there's another Monty Python sketch where they take the baby off and the mama's saying, is that a boy or a girl? And Graham Chapman then says about, I think it's a bit early to be starting to place roles on it. And that's the point. Societies place roles on people based on what a doctor, when you are really little, say you have when it looked between your legs. A role that for me seemed like, why? It really didn't fit with my biology, with how I felt about my body. You know, everything felt like it was in the wrong place. Like hair growing all over places. I've got rid of it since. I'm getting rid of it since, but don't worry, I'm not going to show you everything. YouTube won't like that. Now, obvious. And so people put on these roles, although, strangely enough, they don't explain the roles so well. And yes, they are culturally sensitive. I mean, as you can tell by my accent, I'm British. And you can tell by my profile pic, flags are British, St. Patrick's Cross not even included. And a cup of tea. But the point is, it's often for me, I mean, if we lived in a world without gender, I'd be quite happy with that. But that's probably because of the circumstances. It always felt like a barrier. I mean, do I have a good one to hand? Either way, I mean, philosopher Chubb once made a point about gender for her feeling like being a soldier in a trench, unable to put a rifle down. I sort of agree with the terminology. Well, with the sentiment. Less so the terminology. Simply because for me, I felt more like, I don't know how to put this, a conscript or a mercenary. You know, someone with not really that much investment in any of it, but just there because it's like... But most of my experience of gender is like barriers. The sort of male people who really didn't see me as one of them that much. Well, the men culture. The word's often used interchangeably because of these very rigid structures. And yes, for me, transitioning from man to woman is more of a, as it were, as I say, my English is not always great, but transitioning man to woman is more physical or biological. But the role, I mean, my name's not changing. Ed will still be Ed. The ducks will still be duckies. Although, anyway, and yeah, other cultures, perhaps the gender binary of things aren't so big. I mean, one of the things I found from some people, not all, growing up was this idea of, well, you're not exactly gender conforming, but you're Irish. As I said, you're Irish. They're like, oh, you're Irish, Ed. You know, the idea that Celts don't have those kind of gender norms, you know. Now, it's because my dad's Irish, mum's Lancastrian, which is part of England, thus Anglo-Saxon. So I get to be Irish if you don't like them, if you don't like the Irish, and get to be Anglo-Saxon if you do. It's fun. This is fun. Yoish. Anyhow. Anyway, that's enough of the mix-up of the rainbow, white and green. And more, as I say, my gender never really... It always really felt odd. You know, that there was always a barrier between me and a lot of my friends just because of what a doctor said all them years ago. Put on a little conveyor belt from all the beginning all the way up till they get to the end of life and the heavens above and the Lord's, and well, you know how it is, as the book of Samuel says. Men see appearances, but God sees the heart. Don't know how controversial that line's going to be, but I'll find peace eventually. I'd say. But it just feels like this sort of interesting juxtaposition. Because as I say, with the menfolk, I'm always a bit different. Talk down. You know, I try and present confidence, but it comes across, but it always manages to come across as being aggressive. Always having to monitor my tone to make sure I'm not, to make sure that I'm always talking nicely, that I'm always being polite and civil. You know how it is. But always feeling like isolated. So it can be quite a lonely experience, because on the one hand, you're put into a certain block, but that certain block doesn't really want you around. Now, yes, it's probably autism. I'd say autigender is probably a thing, but you know, sort of, for me, as I say, feeling of internal self, woman feels better for me. Maybe I might not present the most femme. Perhaps there's a slightly, you know, something else as well. Maybe gender doesn't really fit fit. Maybe gender roles themselves don't really fit. You know, why should we be thinking of men in terms of being strong and protector people? Why should we be thinking of women as the mama, the caregiver, the you know, we be about making babies? Aye, a lot of funnily enough, another reason gender didn't seem to fit. So much of the discourse around gender involves the mating, the finding person, the meeting person, the marrying person, and the making babies with the person. But for autistic person like me, society like, no share. You no make the baby. You know, you're not. You wouldn't be able to cope in relationship. You're not really suitable for all that. So it was an interesting idea, given that, as I say, this kind of disconnect. The social expectation of gender for man is that you go out and work. That your work is rewarded with a proper family. With a nice house that you can use to put a wife in. And that your wife, she can go out to work too, of course. And then you create that family unit. And you use that family unit to make out the babies of the next generation. But me? Yet. It's like, nah, Ed, you're not really meant to fly the nest. You're not really meant to be that kind of person. And so gender always felt a little bit odd. Because, you know, how much of it is tied to the whole making of the babies. But, it was not. But when you're not expected to do that, I mean, nobody, as far as I know, would be outright hostile for me to find somebody. And so I hope you don't mind me moving on to a slight point. Because perhaps some people might be wondering, Ed, why do you seem to have such a strange love of the military when you're like one of these, what some people call leftists? Firstly, I don't know why you call me a leftist, but some people do. Some people think my ideas are a little bit left-wing, a little bit progressive. I consider myself a moderate. You know, stuff like worker ownership of the means of production, I consider a very moderate idea. But that is for another day. I've discussed that already in the politics of writing. But relax. Because for me, as I say, my physicality felt wrong with the picture of myself and who I was on the inside. And that's why I'm undergoing the treatments to make that better. Even if perhaps when it comes to a social relationship, this might be it. But the feeling better of being called Miss rather than Mr. Or anyway, more to the point. Some people have asked the question, and perhaps some people ask, so why do you seem such a fan of the military? Well, in a way, it's more about a community of people. Because you see, I understand being a bit different and not fitting in. I've worked really hard to fit into my British society. Britain is my home. It's where I grew up. It's where my family are. It's home. I want to have a nice home. Hence why I want to celebrate National Health Service. And but that whole thing about what it was with the military. Well, as I say, it's this element of a team. Because Britain's military, perhaps not always, and maybe it's a very recent thing they realise this, but it's quite a diverse place. You'd see people, all sorts of genders, races, sexualities. A very diverse kind of place. But on the other hand, it's never brought up. You know, I've never seen the British Army put out an advert like the Americans did, that one that they did in 2022 that was pilloried online about a woman, about a female soldier who's mad, who has 2 mums and very into progressive stuff and all that. Never seen anything like that in the British military. The British Army has plenty of adverts with women, with people of diverse ethnic backgrounds, but they don't talk about that. And in a way it was that sense of community, that sense of we're all different, but we're all coming together for a greater purpose. And even though I can't join because of like past trauma and stuff that's messed up my head, so the army didn't think I'm okay, even though they like the ducks and they like the weird, they liked all the funny eccentric softy stuff that other employers think, no, you know, I have to hide my sort of soft effeminate side when I'm applying for jobs on Civvy Street. The army don't care. They consider transitioning a private matter, to quote the MOD website. Because when you're out in the field, toxicity gets people killed. But anyway, the army haven't sponsored this video either. Point is, I'm Ed. And gender's always felt a little bit confusing because it felt like, yes, you are in this unit, but you're not really a part of it. You're kind of a merc. And we kind of forced you into this role. And, well, you're just going to have to... And, well, that's how it is. I have no idea why. I have no idea what I'm doing with the whole gender. I have no idea with the whole thing. Like, what am I meant to do with this whole male stuff? I mean, nobody expects me to reproduce. Nobody expects me to build a home fit for a family. It's all kind of messed up, really. It's like, was ist going on? A lot of stuff in my head, but I'm like, why am I doing this? What is this going on? What is it? You know, and, you know, double thinking what sounds straight, because, you know, you're talking to someone and you don't want to sound too gay just in case that upsets people, or it's too political, or, you know, it could make people uncomfortable. Hiding, you know, until you accidentally say something about, you know, wishing I'd found a husband, then realising too late I shouldn't have said husband, but should have said wife, or, you know, a conversation like going in PE and being beaten by, you know, and being beaten by all the other girls in my year, and someone like, other? You said other girls. Yeah, just having to do this sort of double act take thing, and it just feels like, why play? As you know, I mean, maybe it gave me a really good, maybe it just means I've got a really good acting career as a, well, I'm only joking. They never hire me, but, you know, putting on a role for 24/7 basically, jump into a world of fantasy every so often so that I can escape it, and it's part of the reason I really don't like talking about myself, because I know I have to, like, make it fit with the social image that somebody put on me because of what a doctor said back in the 1990s. You know, it's like, dude, and hey, lots of stuff changes, you know, but either way. Oh, sorry, I'm just quickly trying to fix this drawer as well, but no, that's all right. So, and hey, I'm not really great with panels and stuff, so yeah, sort of and hey, that's partly why I wear a hat in my videos, is because I don't like looking at my hair and my face while I'm editing, although that's maybe partly due to internalized anti-Irish sentiment. The fact that my hair but my hair just will not straighten anything, and it always has that sort of curly style Yeah. Hey, other people have had it far worse than me on all sorts of stuff. So hey, put out your sympathy for them. I'll be okay. I always will be. I'll be okay. I'm finding loving friendship places, finding people who support me, and that's what I want to feel. I want to tell everyone. I want to be thankful for all the positive people out there. All the people out there who are like, no. Where did I put the no stick? Anyway, also all the positive people out there who are like, no, we're not going to be binding people by some arbitrary decision made about them against their will. We're going to take people as they are. We're going to appreciate people as they are. We're going to find people as themselves, being their best selves. We're going to support people. We're going to grow with people. Build love, build friendship. Build a world that makes people happy. Build a world where we can care about one another. Where we don't have all these like barriers, lines, borders, people being targeted for who they are, but love for who they are and can bring a world of friendship, of peace, of community and love and solidarity. All those warm, kind, lovely people out there. The people, even just the little things like getting the bank to change the title on your card from Mr. to Miss. Yes, or the letter, or the fact that when you ask CAFOD whether you can be a volunteer and transgender, and they're like, well, we respect the dignity of all human life, so yes. All those lovely people, all those kind, supportive people, everybody who's just a little bit considerate of the needs and love of everyone else, who just does that little bit to make the world a little bit better. I just want to say, it was lovely having you here.